In this video, we're going to be looking at making some conclusions using definitions that we have learned so far in this class when given a diagram. So first in vocabulary, definitions. Something special about definitions is that you can write a definition as a conditional statement in if-then form or as its converse. So both are true for definitions. As we saw in the previous video, sometimes the conditional statement and its converse, one of them won't end up being true. So we saw with the guitar and musician that the converse wasn't true because not every musician will necessarily be playing the guitar. But for definitions, both will be true. And then something else just to remind you is that perpendicular lines, those are lines that intersect to form 90-degree angles. And so you'll normally see this as here, and you'll know it's intersecting 90 degrees because they'll have that little box that represents a 90-degree angle. And some special symbol that we use to mark that lines are perpendicular is this symbol. It kind of makes a 90-degree angle. So let's look at some examples. Okay, looking at number 1, I want to decide whether each of these three statements are true about this diagram. And then we're going to explain our answer using the definitions we have learned. So I see for part A that it has AC is perpendicular to BD. So again, remember that symbol right here, that means perpendicular. So I'm looking to see if these lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. And so I see that BD, this line, and AC is this line, and I see that there is that right angle that's marked in the diagram. So super important, that needs to be marked so I do know that they're intersecting at a 90-degree angle instead of just looking like it does. I see it actually is because it is marked that way, so this is going to be true. And definition that we used was definition of perpendicular. Okay, now let's look at this next one. This next one says that AEB and CEB are a linear pair. So let's look at that. So I have AEB, so that's going to be this angle, and CEB is going to be this angle. Now I want to determine whether that is true or false. Well, I know for a linear pair, that means that they're supplementary. And so if you remember from Unit 1, that means that they add up to 180 degrees. Well, I see that this forms a straight line, and these two angles are adjacent to each other, and so that means that this one is true. That's the definition of linear pair. And again, that is because they're adjacent to each other, right next to each other, and they form 180 degree. Okay, and then the last one, I want to see whether EA and EB are opposite rays. So if you remember, those were rays that go in opposite directions and end up forming a line. And so I see that EA is this ray, starting at E, and goes out towards A. EB, E is again my endpoint, going out towards B. And so I see looking at this diagram that this is not opposite rays. An opposite ray would have been if we had EC, and that's because they then form a line. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try doing part A. Actually, try doing all parts, and then when you think you have it, go ahead and press play. So the answers you should have gotten here were true, false, true, and false. So I know that JMF and FMG are supplementary because if I look at my diagram, I have this angle JMF and then FMG, and I see they make a straight line, and so that means I know they're supplementary because they add up to 180 degrees. For part B, I know that one's false because I can't assume that. And so when I look at the diagram, I see the line FH, or the segment. I want to see if M is the midpoint. It looks like in the picture that it is the midpoint. However, we can't assume that because it isn't marked as such. In order to know for sure that this is the midpoint, I would need to have these tick marks right here that represent that those are congruent. And then for part C, I see that JMF, HMG, those are vertical angles. You can see that in the diagram. And then for this last one, it is false because, again, it doesn't have that marking of being perpendicular. I don't see that little box that represents a 90-degree angle.